I'd like to introduce Sam Richardson from Jewish National Fund. I will read you his bio. It says he is a traditional Jewish guy who also happens to be a sociologist. He has been involved in a variety of small Jewish communities across the country, including Colorado, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and Virginia. In addition to serving as Director of Small Community Outreach for the Jewish National Fund, Sam's ongoing research seeks to increase the understanding of how small Jewish communities engage in the task of transmitting Jewish values to the next generation, thereby facilitating Jewish continuity. So I would like to introduce Sam Richardson to you, the Savannah Jewish community.
Thank you very much for that warm introduction, Jamie. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to share with you today some things that you may not know about the Jewish National Fund. And I will share my screen and share for audio. And please do feel free to interrupt me as we go on, because it's more important that your questions are answered than I talk. And I'd like to make sure that everybody has any questions or concerns that they have addressed this evening. Jewish National Fund, we do want to be your voice in Israel. We have designed Jewish National Fund for the past, at least for the past 40 years, as a lay-led organization. As a professional staffer, I work for the board of directors and the committees thereof, which are all lay leaders, not professionally paid staff workers. The work that's done in Israel is all overseen by our lay leaders. The fundraising, the back-end work, that's all done by paid staff. And so I just want to make sure up front that you understand that we are looking for opportunities for you to be involved so that you can be on the ground in Israel, building and securing our land, not simply to be writing checks. Although that's wonderful as well, of course, because it takes money to get everything moving and built up. To tell you a little bit about myself and my perspective on small communities is that my doctoral work is in American Jewry, specifically with a focus on small Jewish communities. And I call what happens in our small communities the utility and magic of thinking small, because we do things differently than in the urban centers. We have an opportunity that they do not to be on all the time, right? We do not have the easy ability to just choose when and where we are going to be Jewish, because a lot of the people in the community who are in the community, we know everybody in the community, in the Jewish community, and people in the larger community also know us, and they know that we are Jewish, and we are put under a spotlight. We're sometimes criticized a little more than maybe we should be, or sometimes rightly so. But regardless, we come together as people with different backgrounds, different levels of observance, different family traditions, and we make it work. We don't have to segregate ourselves into different groups in our small communities. And so we do things differently. And just as JNF is more than trees, which I'm going to share with you shortly, we provide a place for small Jewish communities that are not New York, Miami, Los Angeles, because people do live in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Grand Junction, Colorado, where I grew up, Eugene, Oregon, and Savannah, Georgia. In fact, there's over 200 Jewish communities throughout the United States with fewer than 5,000 members. And most of them have been around for 135 years or more, as Savannah is one of our earliest Jewish communities in North America. And the 2019 estimate, just so you know, of Savannah was 4,300 Jewish individuals. What I discovered in my research is that there are 4 specific things that small Jewish communities do differently than our big city brothers and sisters. Number 1, they don't rely on large institutions or the professional class. As I was just talking to Jamie, she wears many hats in the Federation. and she probably has a very broad knowledge of what's going on in the community, which is not the case in a large city federation where you have multiple paid staff that do a lot of the work, whereas Jamie needs to come and find people to assist her, I'm sure, and people are volunteering at the federation, at the synagogue, in various places, and there's a lot of overlap. People are doing multiple jobs for multiple organizations because we're all one community. So we have to rely on us, on the individual and family members of the community, not on the professional class. Second, we reduce outsourcing by increasing parental and personal responsibility. We know that unless there's a parent taking responsibility for a teaching role in the Shabbat school or the religious school, making sure that the B'nai Mitzvahs go off well, making sure that the kids are trained, making sure that people are aware of the needs in the community, that our children see us taking ownership and responsibility for our own community. That's thinking small, but thinking small earns great rewards in the end. Third, we clarify and we articulate our community values as small communities, and they're going to be a bit different than those in the urban centers. Again, we tend to value that family time as a community where we gather as families, where we are coming together for holidays and for just weekends, for sports activities. I've got dozens of stories from across the country of how small communities over the decades have demonstrated their cohesiveness and their vitality, not through the large showy things that go on in the big cities, but through family, community, sitting around a table, having discussions, coming together for different types of learning. And again, not relying on that professional class, but doing it because it's the right thing to do. And then finally, we're not afraid to set and clarify boundaries and encourage living by those community values. And quite frankly, that's why proportionally small Jewish communities are, and this really is a good thing, small Jewish communities are losing Jews at a slower rate than are the large Jewish communities. When you look at the numbers of Jewish individuals who are disaffecting every year out of the cities, the numbers are just, they're tragic. In our small communities, it's still a tragedy for every Jewish man, woman, boy, girl we lose, but there's fewer of them. Even if they move out of that community, oftentimes they'll go to another small community after college. Sometimes they'll go to a city, but often then they'll even come back then to a small community after they spent some time in the city. And so they remaining Jews, and they're having Jewish children and Jewish grandchildren. And that's a very positive thing, and I want to encourage you with that. The utility and magic of thinking small in our small communities is something to be proud of and something to cultivate. So, JNF, yes, we are more than trees. We have 7 domains of project areas in Israel. Forestry and green innovations is the natural one, but it's just one. Education and advocacy, I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about that. Research and development. I'm a sociologist, not a scientist, or I'm a social scientist, but I'm not a physical scientist. So I try to leave that to the professionals who handle that. We won't be getting into that today, but is really some cool stuff. Community building, which I'm very excited about. Heritage site preservation, very, very important to ensure that those sites in Israel, those historical sites, are maintained so that our children, our children's children can go and visit the places that made our state possible on the ground. And disabilities and special needs, of course, are important in any community, but JNF has specifically taken the opportunity to focus in these areas with special projects, and we'll talk a little bit about that, as well as water solutions. As you may know, Israel recycles 85% of all of its water. The closest competitor is Spain at 20%. And part of the new Abraham Accords, which now we have 4 signers, which is amazing, that Israel is going to be sharing that water technology with the Arab states to an even greater extent than they already have. And Israel is currently sharing water technology with North and Central African states, with communities in India and other parts of Asia, in the Central and South Asia, where clean water is an issue. So there's a lot going on, and I will try to be as efficient with my time as possible. And to that end, let me start by showing you this terrific vision video.
It all begins with a vision. Creating a bright and prosperous future for the land and people of Israel is Jewish National Fund's vision. The vision we build upon every day. To create change, you need a vision. A vision of lush and breathtaking.
I apologize. I don't know what the problem was there. Let's go back.
It all begins with a vision. Creating a bright and prosperous future for the land and people of Israel is Jewish National Fund's vision. The vision we build upon every day. To create change, you need a vision. A vision of lush and breathtaking forests where once was only rocky and brown land. A vision of transforming the Negev and the Galilee, areas filled with pioneering spirit and determination, but faced with economic challenges. We're helping these areas reach their potential by creating jobs, housing, tourism, and quality of life opportunities, injecting a vitality that is transforming them into places people want to live. A vision for us to speak our values, leaving no one behind. A vision of quenching the thirst of Israel's population and allowing the agricultural economy to thrive by bolstering Israel's water security with reservoirs, drip irrigation, and river rehabilitation. A vision that took Israel to recycling 85% of its water today. A vision that searches for solutions that will make a better tomorrow. From state-of-the-art greenhouses to flourishing pepper and flower farms, to high-tech labs that are working on medical breakthroughs. A vision of a continuum that engages at every age, from the time you're born through adulthood and beyond, ensuring that we are raising tomorrow's leaders today. A vision that understands that a nation must know its past to create a stronger future, that the stories of our history are preserved to be retold for generations to come. Since 1901, Jewish National Fund has been guided by a vision of a bright, beautiful future for the land and people of Israel. A vision that Jewish National Fund delivers on year after year. Be a part of our vision. Join us.
I hope that was informative and inspiring for you. It always is for me. And what we didn't show you there is the issue of population density in Israel, which is one of the main factors that JNF is trying to address throughout all of our programs. 75% of Israelis live in just 25% of the land, from Jerusalem through Tel Aviv and up to Haifa. And this, of course, is a problem because of infrastructure, of living space, of jobs that are all scarce in this area, and it's not getting better. So in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, the government of Israel set a goal of moving 600,000 Israelis from the core to the north and 600,000 from the core to the south. I'm sorry, 1 million to the south. 600 to the north, 1 million to the south. And that's a huge job. So in 2010, JNF made a commitment to move 1/2 of that number, 300,000 to the north and 500,000 to the south. That's a lot of people to be moving from the core to the periphery, where in the periphery, there's sometimes the infrastructure doesn't exist. Schools, hospitals, offices, jobs, they simply don't exist. So JNF came up with a number of plans based on going to places where people already lived in the Negev, in the Gaza envelope, in the Hula Valley. And we said, what do you need? What will it take to get people to move to these communities and put boots on the ground, so to speak, to reinforce the security, the cultivation, the productivity of the entire land of Israel? And so we have all of these projects going on. And as you can see, there's still a lot in the core, but we are growing virtually monthly in our projects in the northern and southern periphery. As of July, we had 1,338 housing lots supported by our Housing Development Fund. These are monies that are granted to municipalities, enabling them to give easy to qualify for families and lower than standard interest rate loans for families primarily who are willing to move from the core to the Galil, to the Gaza envelope, to the Arava. And it's a very popular and successful program. But maybe I'm going a little too ahead of myself. Well, let's go back just a little bit. Let's look at this concept of Zion. Zion is an idea, or was an idea for 3,000 years. It was an idea. But today, Zion is a reality. We are in our land. We have self-governance. We have a place of safety to call home. And think about our national anthem. Kol od belevav penima nefesh Yehudi homiya. And at the end, we sing Lihiot am choshi be'artzenu, to be a nation free in our land. That is the goal that we have achieved, but that's also the dream we need to sustain and ensure that is going to be a reality for our children's children's children as far as we can go. It all started, of course, about 4,000 years ago when Abraham was told, get thee from thy native land to where I will show you, and I will assign this land to your offspring. Well-known story. And from there, he went, and of course, this history is going to go very fast, planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and there he called on the Lord, and we have the whole history from that time to the desert, the desert wanderings in out of Egypt, and then we come into the land in 1250, and so forth and so on, until, of course, the time we're celebrating right now, the Maccabean revolt, and then the destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans in 70 CE, found us in a place of diaspora, in which we stayed for almost 19 centuries, a long time to be without our land. And again, the fast track, these are the big events that happened with regard to the land of Israel. But then, of course, the biggest event, 1948, Medinat Yisrael is born, and we now have our own home to which we can return. A more refined historical view for those history files among us who would like to get some more detail, and if you'd like, I can definitely send you all of the links and information I'm referring to. And then something happened in 1895 that you may be aware of. The Dreyfus Affair, a Jewish artillery captain in the French army, was falsely convicted of passing military secrets to the Germans. He was put on trial. And a young journalist named Theodor Herzl, he went to France to cover that event. And he was a secular Jew, not religious, aware of his identity, not aware of a lot of Jewish history, but aware of Jewish persecution in Europe. And so he set out to teach himself, to learn about our history, and he ended up writing The Jewish State. February 1896, it's published. And then through his own personal efforts, the first Zionist Congress was in Basel, Switzerland in 1897. Through Herzl's personal efforts, even providing appropriate clothing for some of the delegates, we met and we voted unanimously to endeavor to create a state for ourselves in then Palestine, in the historic land of Eretz Israel. Then at the Fifth Zionist Congress, Herzl said, we are here to lay the foundation stone of the house which is to shelter the Jewish nation. Therefore, we need a fund with which to purchase land. And so at 7:40 p.m. on Sunday, December 29th, Herzl proclaimed the Jewish National Fund has been created with 40 pounds, 40 British pounds sterling. But it's a very important thing because, as one delegate from Poland said, Zvi Shapira said that once the idea of a national fund were realized, he would be able to die in peace. I say the opposite. Once the national fund is realized, I will be able to live in peace, because it was important to actually purchase the land. We couldn't just go and squat. We had to appropriate the land legally, ethically, and then cultivate and build up the land. And of course, you all remember the blue boxes of raising money for trees, which is actually raising money for land, but it was also raising money for trees. And so by today, JNF has purchased 70,000 acres of land owned by JNF, 14% of the land of Israel. And of course, the trees were a very important part of that. And many people ask, why trees? Well, it kind of makes sense now, but back then it was because of the Ottoman Empire. According to Ottoman law, when you purchased a plot of land as a new owner, you had 5 years to cultivate that land, or it could revert to the prior owner. People could legally come and squat on your land. Somebody else could come and cultivate it. So what's the easiest way to cultivate land? Plant trees. And so that's what we started to do. In 1903, the first land was purchased, and then starting in 1905, trees were planted. And by 1940, you can see in the blue all of the land that had been purchased by the Jewish National Fund. The land in green is land that was purchased through private corporations and other private interests. Then by 1947, you can see the UN partition plan actually kind of looks like where we had purchased land. So maybe there was something to that. There's a number of good history books I can refer you to that discuss how the partition plan came about its borders. And then May 14th, 1948, Medinat Yisrael Chai, the Jewish state lives. And of course, Theodor Herzl was prominently displayed in Independence Hall as Ben Gurion read the Statement of Independence. And the work of JNF had just begun and continues today in our 7 comprehensive action areas. I'd like to share with you briefly just a few. First one, very important, education and advocacy, because this goes to our youth, which we cannot lose. We are the single largest provider of Israel engagement programs in the United States, as well as, since 1972, teaming with the Alexander Muss High School in Israel. Now, Alexander Muss High School in Israel is the place for Jewish students to go for a semester, a summer, a break program to learn alongside a general education requirement, because they're still in high school, they're still learning credit for that, but they're also learning Israel studies, general studies, college prep, and Jewish life. This all goes into increasing their identity, strengthening their identity, increasing their Jewish awareness, and the outcomes are wonderful. When they are adults, and we have tens of thousands now of alumni, 88% marry a Jewish spouse compared to their peers at 56%. 63% are members of a synagogue, double that of their peers who don't go on a Israel summer program. 80% donate to Jewish charities, which is much more than the 56% of their peers who don't attend a summer program in Israel. So Alexander Muss High School is one of the ways that we are thinking small, impacting one student at a time and making a world of difference. We also have programs for non-Jewish students. Caravan for Democracy brings non-Jewish students on a free winter break tour of Israel to meet with Israelis of all backgrounds to discuss the difficult political and social issues in Israel. And what they are asked to do in return for this free trip and meeting all these fantastic people and having these important discussions is when they return to campus the next semester, hold an open forum for discussion about these issues so that they can present their personal firsthand experience on the ground in Israel. We have a similar program for faculty, for Jewish and non-Jewish faculty, called our Faculty Fellowship Program. So with all these terrific programs of experienced educators and affiliates with the Jewish National Fund, just think of the K through 12 college and adult education programming we have available for you in Savannah. Please do check it out. I'd like to share with you briefly about the Makom Pioneers. Makom means place, and these pioneers are creative, idealistic people from all sectors of Israeli society. They design educational programs, training materials that help make sense of how we can best be a free people in our land. Through deep expectations of freedom, peoplehood, and security in the land of Israel, their goal is to open up explorations into the possibilities that modern Jewish life affords. They build groups who go into communities in the Negev and the Galilee with a specific purpose or mission to improve education, lift a minority group such as the Bedouin or the Druze, or even renew life to a declining kibbutz. And Jewish National Fund has chosen Makom as a partner on the ground in developing our Go North strategy, as well as our Blueprint Negev strategy for revitalizing and building up the south of Israel. Now, there's one community I want to share with you. This community is Chalutza, and this community is in the Gaza envelope. This is a collection of small communities: Neve, Bnei Tzurim, Shlomit, and they make up the people and descendants of families who in 2005 were evacuated from Gush Katif in the Gaza Strip, and they decided, we've been kicked out of our home, we're going to build a new one. And I'd like my colleague, Yedidi Harush, to share with you this experience.
Hello, welcome to Chalutza. I'm so excited to host you here in this very special, unique corner where Egypt and Gaza meet, all the way down the Western Negev, northern Western Negev. Chalutza is a big desert that no one ever wanted to come and build and develop. But a group of people who were evacuated from their homes in Gush Katif and the Gaza Strip decided to take upon themselves this mission of building the state of Israel, and were sent here by the government. Look at it. All sand. No one ever thought that anything can grow here. This was a place of death, a cursed land, like our neighbors used to call this place. I was born and raised in the Gaza Strip. I came here as a kid when everybody else said to us, this is the place, don't go there. Join me to see what we did here. Hey, we're back to 2020. I know, it's hard to believe what we managed to do in such short time. Look at it. Look at this beautiful produce. I just picked it, just now. And this grows here, in the cursed land, in the place that nothing can grow in. Over 80 species of fruits and vegetables, 2,000 people, schools, medical centers, community centers, synagogues, daycare centers, kindergartens, chickens for eggs and cows for milk, and so much more. It's all thanks to the Jewish National Fund, who partnered with us and believed in us, and still believe in us. And together, we're completing this vision of building the Negev, of bringing 15,000 people to this area, of helping to fulfill the Blueprint Negev initiative the Jewish National Fund invented back in the early 2000s. And together we will grow into 15,000 people. Because for us, even the sky is not the limit. Even when we get rockets from Egypt, rockets from Gaza, ISIS, Hamas, sandstorms, wind, distance, whatnot, we will overcome everything. Because together we can. Together we can believe, and together we can achieve. Am Yisrael Chai. Thank you.
I am always so encouraged when I think of all the work that's been going on. It's a wonderful thing. Really quickly, disabilities and special needs. We have 3 programs in Israel that I'd like to highlight for you. There are a number of them, but our Special in Uniform, it brings young men and women who otherwise could not serve in the IDF the opportunity to serve, volunteer, but then also we had our first active duty and 1 commissioned officer through the Special in Uniform program. It's fantastic. Adi Negev, which is a rehabilitation hospital and village, serves people from ages of 3 to 85 in a professional, safe, secure environment where their families can visit them, participate in their therapy. And this is all for residents of the Negev who otherwise would have to go up to Jerusalem, to Tel Aviv, to Haifa in order to get service. No, they can be near their families in the Negev. And finally, the Red Mountain Therapeutic Riding Center, which also serves the Negev as well as the Southern Arava with important equestrian therapy, which provides rehabilitation like none other for PTSD as well as for physical disabilities. I want to encourage you to look into these projects that we have. Of course, Israel is the quintessential startup nation, and JNF has been right there all along, developing new strategies and answering the question of how do we continue to build and secure our land and our people. Through these 3 things, education, advocacy, community building, disabilities, and special needs, we can continue the task. As Herzl said, if you will, it is no dream. We have realized the dream. We need your help to continue to realize the dream. Please join our Facebook group, JNF Small Communities, and through you, we can continue to build and secure our land. I think I've gone a little bit over time, but thank you so very, very much for your attention. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
I have a question. I'm Carol.
Hi, Carol.
Hi. A couple of things. Your presentation is wonderful. Thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome.
A couple of years ago, I know Hadassah let go of many of its sponsored projects, and JNF used to work very closely with Hadassah. The blue boxes I had when I was younger were Karen and me, but later they were Hadassah blue boxes, and we had blue box ladies, which we don't do anymore.
Oh.
What is the impact of the separation of the organizations, and do you still have a collaboration with Hadassah, other than, I know when I go to buy trees now, I can buy them as a pass-through through Hadassah to get to JNF, but I could also buy directly from JNF.
Right, and you nailed it. That is the relationship at this time, is that all of the trees Hadassah purchases do come through JNF. Other than that, and if you follow the Jewish internal political bickering at all, You may be aware that there are a number of organizations in the World Zionist Congress, in the Jewish Congress, within the American Zionist Organization. Organizations are having a difficult time as domestic political issues as well as other things have been unfortunately pulling us apart. And we, I can't speak for JNF in those ways. All I can say is that our lay leaders have been reaching their hand out. JNF is an apolitical organization, and we will work with anyone who wants to work with us. And that's what I've seen in my tenure here. And Hadassah, I have had collaboration with Hadassah in a number of communities, and am very happy to work with Hadassah at any level. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have many more questions, but I want to give other people an opportunity. So when we're done, if you don't mind, I'll be happy to give you my email, and
Sure.
or could you put up your email? I'm really interested in a JNF community partnership that is a little more substantial. And I started about 20 years ago with some of your predecessors, and as recently as about 12 years ago, I had a proposal for internships where when you have young people that are training to work with American communities, that you actually do place somebody in the Savannah community. We have a wonderful property that that has a lot of land behind it, which is an anomaly, the way we build modern buildings. And part of the proposal was to help convert some of our backyard into a JNF plot where somebody who interns with you can show us methodology used in Israel, such as hydroponics and whatever, and plant gardens that are reminiscent of Israeli topography, and incorporate their time through our community with a project and youth education. So children who haven't had the advantage of traveling to Israel, which right now is a little more difficult, can gain a sense of why the land is so very important to Israel, and to gain a better understanding of the actual size and potential of a country. None of this ever worked for various reasons, but do you currently have any pilot programs for reciprocity of students or internships or residencies for your people here in the United States, working with small communities to accomplish some of these goals?
Wow, that sounds fantastic. And I'd be happy to talk to you more about that. I tell you, there's nothing specifically to small communities. We do have a partnership between ACAT, the Arava Institution of Technology, which focuses on agricultural technology, and the University of Arizona. And they have partnered in a number of different projects across mostly the Southwestern United States, as you might think. Whether they have done anything at the micro level with individual backyards, I don't know, but it sounds like a terrific idea, and we should explore the possibilities.
Thank you. Jamie knows how to get in touch with me.
Okay. Anybody else?
Any other questions?
No, just it's always good, I think, to keep JNF and other organizations like it on our radar screen, because it's so easy to, I mean, we love to support local things, obviously, but looking at things globally just gives us a chance. I liked your, awareness of the small communities, and, I think it was spot on in terms of analyzing what a small community does, and how, each one of us winds up being involved in everything, because that's what you have to do.
Right,
But
right.
I just wanted to, say I appreciate. I had to scoot. I had somebody at my door, so I had to scoot for a little bit of it. But I just wanted to thank you. I'm glad I tuned in.
Thank you, Toby. Appreciate that.
Well, thank you very much, Sam.
Sure.
Appreciate you joining us today.
I put
Next week,
I'm sorry, I put my email in the chat box for those on Zoom. And for those who are on Facebook, if you will just type in JNF Small Communities, you can find us on Facebook and contact me through that channel. Apologize for interrupting, Jamie. Thank you.
thank you. I want to let you know that next week we have our own Savannah's Tova Tolman, who apparently has a secret love of origami, and she's going to talk to us about the origins of origami and show us a little bit of these secret skills that we didn't know that she had. And then the week after, on December 30th, Jennifer Rich will be joining us to talk to us about understanding the systems in our lives and how they impact us, about healthcare and government. So we will see you next Thursday. Thank you all very much.